Welcome to Uncomfortable Truths. Today I have the amazing, the handsome, the wonderful Anthony Bailey. Hi,
Well, thank you for having
Anthony.
me.
I'm happy to have you. I know we've been friends for a while, and I'm so happy you agreed to be on the show to discuss a few things that make us uncomfortable. And I gave you the liberty of picking the topic for today's show. So before we get started, once again, welcome and let everyone know who you are and your shows that you have and where to find you.
My name is Anthony Bailey. I do a couple of podcasts, one solo and one with another co-host. And the one I do solo is the Quiet Part Out Loud. Basically, that's my brain cracked open. So you kind of get a lot of different things as if you would crack open anyone's brain. You probably will be able to see multiple things. So it's not theme specific. So it's kind of about how I'm feeling at the moment or kind of what I want to dig into or expose to myself because it is the quiet parts that I don't talk about that become loud in that sense. The other podcast that I do with my other co-host is the Red Pill Phone Tap, and that podcast is specific, but it's mainly for guys to kind of have their eyes pulled open, probably ripped open the way we discuss it. But the cheese on the trap of that podcast is talking about women, but in the end, is really about holding men accountable for being better, as far as being able to be a better man for a woman that you want, and not just allowing circumstances to dictate how you enter into a relationship.
Okay, I mean, I hear you. I agree with the purpose and the
Okay.
premise of Red Pill Phone Tap and your show right now. You have about 15, 16 episodes out right now on Red Pill Phone Tap.
No, we are 40. Yeah, we have
Wow,
about 40, I think 44.
really?
Yeah,
Because I
44
know you
episodes.
dropped every Friday and you're on all platforms right now, and
That's a
your
3 hour
new
podcast. Yeah.
it's a 3-hour podcast. Grab a sandwich, take your vitamins, get some nutrition. Yeah, it's a good one. It's informative. I will say that it's debatable. It
Oh, yeah.
will raise conversation. Every show will raise conversation. I've been mentioned in a few shows that I was like, okay. Um but I think it's great to use your voice and put a message out there, and like you said, what the purpose of it,
Mhm.
and hopefully people understand the purpose and get it for the purpose that it is. But I do want to say thank you and welcome. And I need to have you and your co-host from the Red Pill, Mr. Wesley, on the show so we can
Yeah.
talk about some things. Let me first turn my phone off. Let me be proper here, okay?
All
So
right.
today's show, Uncomfortable Truths, I really want to bring the discomfort of our reality. And truth is pretty much what it is for you. There is no right or wrong. Um, it's what you walk in, is what you believe in, and you shouldn't be afraid to feel or think that way. You know what I mean? Today, Anthony, you wanted to talk about fear, and that was what you wanted to discuss. And for us to get going, tell me, what is fear to you? What does it? I don't want the textbook definition. I want to know what fear sounds like, looks like, feels to you when you think of the word fear. What is it?
It is a emotion that could paralyze your thoughts and actions.
Mhm.
And it will project everything that you could foresee as going wrong with life or in
Mm.
certain circumstances is what I see fear is. I think a lot of times, a lot of people, we perform differently under the pressure of fear or the perceived reality of fear. I think fear is more mental than anything. I think how you respond to situation is based on how you were you able to overcome the fear that was presented in front of you, or did you let it consume you and then you let fear be your reality versus you saying, okay, this this particular situation is fearful, but it doesn't consume me and that it doesn't paralyze me. It doesn't make me not be able to look beyond it. I think that's kind of encapsulates the paralyzing you, if you will. The
Right.
I
But
don't want to go
the
too deep into the definition of it, but yeah, that's what I think.
but why not?
Because I'm be kind of, my brain, I'll keep going until it'll be a whole different
And
topic.
I'll stop
So
you.
I'm gonna stop.
I mean,
You
but
say you gonna stop me?
I'll stop you. But the thing about it is, I think there's always a textbook definition for every word that has been created, right? Even the
Right,
ones that they
right.
made up. But we all define fear differently.
Yeah.
And what that fear is and what it looks like is different for all of us.
I think it's your
People
weaknesses being exposed. Like,
But why does it have to be a weakness though? Why can't fear be the moment of great acceleration in your life? Why can't fear be that discomfort to make you shift and say, okay, I have to make a decision? For me, when it comes to fear and the discomfort of fear is, you have to make a decision. Either you're
mhm.
going to crawl into a ball or you're going to bulldoze it.
Yeah,
So that's what it is for me. To me, fear, it can be a moment of weakness because now you're divided. Now you have to make a decision. And the fear for me when it comes to fear is I already know what I have to do and I am fearful of having to do it because either I'm
yeah,
going to have to lose something that I care about or I'm going to have to give you the raw, honest truth. And I'm going to have to leave things behind, or I'm stepping out on a total leap of faith to do something that I'm not sure of. For me, fear is that moment in life where you're totally by yourself and you do not know if you have a safety net. Stepping out
yeah.
and doing what you really want to do, no matter what anyone thinks, if someone supports you or not. That's what fear is for me. It's the unknown. And so many of us cannot operate in the unknown. So many of us have to know, have to make a list and write down questions and have everything prepared. And the fear of, wait a minute, I don't know. And having to say, I don't know. To me, that's fear, that type of discomfort.
Well, it can also be saying what it doesn't know, but it can also be what you do know, which makes it fearful because of the things that you know exist. As far as, and I'll give you a scenario in my own life when I was working at a high paying job and
Mhm.
I was put in a position where I needed to kind of take a stand for my own manhood or just allow a good paying job for this guy to just be able to disrespect me. And I had two fears actually. I had the fear of failing myself as far as allowing someone to walk over me for a paycheck, and the fear of not knowing how standing up for myself, what the outcome would be of that. Right. So it was taking two rows of fear, if you will. And I was like, well, which one? They both have outcomes, but which one would I regret the most? And
Mm,
I think failing myself was more of the outcome that I don't think I would have been able to live with.
mhm.
And I can get another job, right? So I didn't know what the outcome would actually be. So, there was some uncertainty there, but I had more fear of being able to not be able to come back from allowing disrespect to happen to me and let that be something that I just accepted in my life. As far as how can I hold anybody else accountable if I don't hold myself accountable of certain actions or certain deeds being done to me, right? Definitely was a fearful spot, but I was in a program prior to that job where it was a whole seminar over the weekend, and I never really committed to anything like this before. And it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I went back because I was like, I've been to these, rah rah, enlightening, make you think from a different perspective type of seminars before, and they really didn't, change my life. But this particular one did, and the reason it did, I believe, because I made the effort to continue to go to each one. right? And one of the things that they gave us this long arrow, and the arrow had a arrowhead and like this a wooden stick on it, and we had
Mhm.
to write the things that we feared, right? And and things that keep us from moving forward in life. What are the excuses that we give ourselves to move us forward in life, right? So you had to write those on the stick of the arrow, and then put the arrow tip right here on this soft part of your neck. If you feel right there, a little dip
Yeah.
right there,
Yeah.
and so we had to put the arrow right there on the tip of our neck, and we had and our partner had to hold the arrow in their hand as we walked into.
What are your biggest fears in all your 25 years of life? See, I gave you youth. In all your years of life, what are you fearful of? I know you have been a husband, you are a father, you are retired, military, was it Navy? You are a man of color. You've seen a lot, but with all of those things at the core of it, what is Anthony truly fearful of?
I think failure is one of the fears that like will consume me, as far as not being good enough to be successful in something that I've tried to succeed in, and not being able to come through. But what I think that is a lot of times, when you grow up as a child, and certain expectations are put on you, like make straight A's or make straight A's and B, depending on how good you are in school, And when you're able to accomplish those things make give you confidence, right? Give you things that you say, hey, oh, put in front of me. And even though it took work, and I had to sacrifice some things to achieve it, I had the ability of doing so, right? When you get older as an adult, depending on what your circle is, are those same goals put in front of you to achieve, right? Are you still trying to be the best person that you could be? And sometimes we give ourselves these goals that we know we can hit, because without hitting them, then we're not actually even being, the minimum of an adult, right? So we give ourselves these goals, but the real goals, that's like the dreams that we had as a kid, the visions that we kind of see, that we kind of out, or if I would do this, I could do that. We don't push the effort towards those, because it's like, if I actually go for that, do it, then how would I feel about myself, right? And
So
I
your
think I
biggest
never
fear
was.
is failing? That's your only fear really is failing?
Well, I think failing is the part of it where we wasn't taught that failure is
An
normal,
option. Right. Right.
because we're so afraid of it, and it's like the boogeyman in the closet. And
Mhm.
like, we actually go in the closet, figure out it's just a big coat that we didn't know was in there, that had a hat next to it. It's not really a boogeyman. And failure are steps to success. You fail, you earn experience. I remember, in this, anything that we do well, if whatever you do well, you're gonna fail in attempting to be. And the best masters know how to avoid all the mistakes, because they made those mistakes. So they know these are things you get away from. And because I know to stay away from that, I know I need to put more focus on certain other things, right? And I think
But
that's what
those
keeps us
successes
from
came
being,
with failure though.
huh?
You have to fail to succeed. And to me,
Facts.
you have
Yeah.
to know failure to appreciate success. The person to me that's
Yeah. I
never
think being
failed.
able to, yeah, I think if you don't embrace it though as
Right.
part of the process, it still becomes something you want to avoid, right? Like, you still want to avoid it, not knowing that it's actually going to help you. And that was my fear, until I was able to understand what failure is not is not an indictment on my character, who I am. It's actually letting me know I attempted something to actually fail in, right? So
Mhm.
I I don't wear it. I don't wear things failed in like I used to, as like a like a scarlet letter. It is
Mhm.
more of like, okay, this is what I've learned, and this is how I can be better. Sometimes the way I failed in things let me know that I should have nothing to do with that anymore, right? Because some failures, do eyes to some of the weaknesses that you do possess, and I think a lot of times we don't want to see those weaknesses or accept those weaknesses, right? Because
Mhm.
we're this way of thinking that we can somehow become perfection, but our weaknesses kind of let us know that, hey, you're human. You not, because I used to be a perfectionist. I used to try to still say, oh, I'm a perfectionist. I'm striving for this perfect way, but all I can do now, I've changed my perspective. I just say, well, I'm not perfect. I'm just striving for the best way I can achieve a goal better than I've achieved previous goals, where I'm going to do things a little bit harder than I did them before. The things that come easy to me, I don't let them just be things I don't work on because they are easy to me. I was like, how can I be at what I'm good at?
Would
So
you
when
say that
I'm
fear is based in insecurity, though?
definitely it draws it out, and I think that's what it scares us because it pulls
But
the
let's look at
part
the
of
flip
us.
side of that, though. Look at the flip side of that. We're speaking of fear and being consuming, but there's also that fear that comes out that we see in other people that turns into hatred. It turns into bigotry because the unknown or not wanting to admit I don't know, defensiveness. I think a lot of times when people are fearful of the failure or fearful of taking the chances, it can manifest something very ugly that you can't get out of or get away from. And then you end up hurting other people emotionally, physically. But how do we as individuals take that fear and not make it be such an ugly word and make it be something more of and what I mean is, how do we teach those coming up or make people realize to embrace their fear? For me, I no longer make checklists. I no longer make these goals. I stopped making goals and checklists a long time ago because they're crippling. And the thing is, once the one thing is not done on that checklist, I failed. And I didn't want to do that to myself. I think a lot of times we put our own fear on ourselves and these barriers based on society, family, personal pressures. I mean, no matter what people may say about they don't care what people think or I'm outside
Yeah,
the box or I'm on my own mission, when we compare ourselves, because we're a comparison type of society now, we compare ourselves to so many people and so many things are I'm not where my friend is. I'm not where so and so is. And now it's like you're fearful of life passing you by, thinking that you haven't
yeah,
accomplished anything. And that's crippling. For me, I stopped doing that a long time ago. I don't make lists. I don't plan things out. I don't say, okay, by age 30, I have to do this. By this, I did that a long time ago. And when I hit 25, I stopped doing it because you know what? I had to say, well, what's for me is for me. And I have to really go with, is it my time to do it? I've embraced my
you,
failures.
you don't think that it's when you're, as far as setting goals is concerned, means and adjusting your goals to fit who you are now, because goals that I've set before, like I said, some of my failures have you know what, that goal sounds good, but that's not, it's gonna benefit me right now. And me trying to press and do that, or have this goal, I'm not gonna let something I wrote down on a piece of paper dictate how I think about myself and, my self-worth, right? Like, I'm not gonna let something I wrote down on a piece of paper affect that. Like, I gotta say, okay, I can't do that right now for whatever that I deem necessary that I can't do. So the goals still exist for me personally because I'm list oriented as far as things that I want to play out. Things how and now even though I envision it in my head and it don't play out that same, get caught up in it. Like, I don't get lost in the sauce as far as the words on the paper is concerned. As long as I'm progressing forward and I'm doing things that benefit in that moment, um, and I can reassess my goals and come back to see if the things on my list even remotely affect me now, and is it what I really want to be or go forward in now, and I can change that, erase it, switch it up a little bit. I know how sometimes it can definitely restrict people who's like, well, I can't move forward because I ain't finished my list, I ain't finished my goals on this year, so how
But
can
you
I
know,
go
some people
next
are
year
like
until I get
that.
that?
Some people are
Yeah.
like that. Some people are like, I have to, they're so narrow focused. To me, a lot of times when you're laser focused is great, but I feel my personal truth would be when I meet someone who's so narrow focused, they're living in a lot of fear because they're not able to easily adjust to life. I make weekly goals, and that's only because of certain things. You know what I mean? I stopped doing the
Yeah.
whole I must do this by this time because life happens every day and it may not be
Right.
my time to do it. You know, it's like, okay, I may say this is what I want to do. Then it's like, how do I get to that point? Okay, I want to pay off a bill. Okay, well, we don't cut out certain things. We're gonna do it. Just do it. I stopped making, and I'm successful and I've done a lot and I'm happy, but I had to embrace the fear and the failure of it and realizing for me, all of it is on stepping out on the unknown. The unknown has been the most joyous thing for me and has brought me more than the certain goals that were set. You know what I mean? Just saying, okay, well, let me just do it. Okay.
So
Let me
so
just do what I have.
you're not taking macro goals, you're doing more micro goals.
I mean, if you want to put a term to it, you know, I
What I'm
just
saying is like you're not holding yourself to some annual goal that you thought of at the
no,
end of the
no,
previous year and say,
no.
well, next year I'm gonna hold myself to knock out this list of whatever, right? So
Because my
I
fear
but
is
I
when I
yeah.
say it, it won't happen.
Okay, so you don't even
My
make it.
fear, my thing, I may like I have something I would love to see happen. You know, like I would love to
Yeah.
have this happen. You know, but I also know I have to work on procrastination. I have to work on the fear of can I do it? You know what I mean? So it's like I like the pressure of certain things, you know? So for me, I I want to do something, then let me do it. I have to do it immediately. And then I do it. Like that's just how I operate. I can't sit on something so long because I will talk myself out of it. I may make excuses. Um and everyone doesn't operate that way, but I feel for me the way I operate when failure or disappointment happens, I'm not broken behind
Yeah.
it. Because some people put so much weight on those goals, and I'm not saying goals are wrong. Everyone, that's not what I'm saying, but some people put so much weight on I have to do this that they don't know how to bob and weave with it or even how to seek help to get to where they want to go because they're so in their own mind space that they just don't know what to do and how to even bring someone in to help them accomplish what they're trying to do.
I agree with you, and it was one of the reasons why I switched my way I set my goals differently. Even though I may
Mhm.
have an annual goal list, each goal that I have on that annual list is broken down into 12 months and then into 4 weeks until 7 days. And how can I accomplish each goal on a daily basis? I got 12 months to knock these out, however around I get to them. And that can drive you crazy if you don't have a focus on it. Just like if you were buying a car, your brain switches because if you want a specific car and you want a specific brand or model or whatever, guess what you start seeing on the road.
No, that's
And
true.
if you change your focus on how you see things versus I want to get a car, I don't know what kind of car I want, whatever, they got on the lot, or you know what I'm saying, you just live in life, right? Living and learn. Like if I live my life and I learn from my mistakes. Like I don't buy a car the way I bought my first car or my first couple of cars. Like I just kind of just like
I just take those
hopefully
as
they give me
lessons
the
learned,
loan.
you know?
Yeah,
They're lesson
yeah.
learned. I just think for me, I'm not making I I guess for me, knowing how toxic and ill certain ways that I did goals and disappointments hit me, that I had to figure out for myself the
Mhm.
best way to make those adjustments. And I had to realize, for me to have a good quality of life, this is just my own thing. For me to have a good quality of life, I had to rethink the importance of the strictness of certain goals. I will never make a goal and break it down by 12 and then by 4 and then by 7. I'm not, unless it's something huge, like, okay, oh, let's buy a house or let's buy a vehicle. That's different. Then you look and say, well, am I positioned to do that? Okay, well, if I'm not, then what do you do to get to that point? And then I make those adjustments, But let me ask you this. When it comes to fear in your life, how has fear hurt you? And how have you not recovered from those things? What has happened in your life
Oh,
where
man.
fear took a big toll? And
Uh,
go ahead.
getting divorced,
Mm,
getting divorced twice. Um,
mhm,
definitely, it changed me. Because the fear of like having to go through that again, and like thinking you selected somebody for life twice
mhm.
and it doesn't play out that way can make you moving forward, right? And I've I've made adjustments to my life to keep that playing out, as far as me just believing the words of someone else versus watching what they do and letting their actions speak for them versus believing the sound good, the words that sound good, and letting that be my comfort. I like, again, it's all about your mentality. I changed my mentality on how I see marriage and how I see getting into a marriage. There's so many things within a marriage that you don't see until you're actually in one. A lot of it is fairy tales. And then you actually get in a relationship where you see them every day and you sleep in the bed with them every night and you see their humanity in front of you, like all their faults become emboldened, and you have to be able to evolve with a person that's changing themselves, right? And that you can't hold people in these boxes, or let the fantasy of what you thought marriage was supposed to be only that. So I've had to change my mentality about it, but it made me respect it on a higher level. I'm
Let me
not
ask you
fearful of
this
it.
though. Mhm. You're not fearful
I'm
of
not
it?
fearful of it. It's just no. I'm not fearful of it. It's just the fear made me change my mentality about it. Because what I want to do about fear, when I do see something that does make me fear it, I want to learn how to beat it. and if there's a way to beat it, right? So I'll know how to move. I'm gonna let it just keep me frozen, right? And I'm not gonna let it turn me to somebody I'm not. So how can I keep my integrity? How can I still move cautiously without letting it consume me?
Let me ask you this. So you said everything on that side of it, but what about your two failed marriages did you realize about yourself that you didn't like? Not because, yeah, you're seeing their humanity, but you're also going to see your own. You know, when we get involved with
Mm,
people, you know, we come in this world singular. You walk through it singular.
yeah.
You deal with your own thoughts. You only hear your own thoughts and all of that. So now you're in this union where you have to pull away from being selfish. And what I mean by selfish is you're not only thinking of yourself. You have to figure out, how can I mesh and work and flow together with this person and be considerate of this person? Because, you know, a
Mm,
lot of failed relationships, in my opinion, come from walking into it thinking my way is the right way. And you're like, my way is the right way. And no one's willing to realize there is no right or wrong. That's your frame of reference of what you saw and how things were done. And this is my frame of reference. So how can we come together and work
mhm.
as one? You know, when you have two that have failed, to me, it would make you question a lot of things within yourself because you
Yes.
have the two. You know what I mean? Um, you know, it makes you adjust. And to me, listening to you and coming out of that, it seems to me that it can also make you closed off and maybe overly cautious and fearful because you don't want to fail a third time. So it's almost like, I'm not going to do it again. And it can make you maneuver. I mean, Anthony, I know you, right? So, I mean, I know you. So it just sounds like, you know, when you're a planner and you have goals and you have all these things, but the two biggest things in
Mhm.
your life have failed, how do you not allow that to dictate who you are? How do you take those two things? And you're still a young man. So you had two failed marriages at a very young age. How do you
Mhm.
not put upon your kids your own trauma of that failure and not let them think all marriages are awful and they're going to end badly, or owning your own stuff? Because when a marriage fails,
Mhm.
it's not only failure
Yeah.
on one side, it's on both sides.
Yes. I I will agree. There were things that I could have done different, and had I been the man that I am today, I probably could have saved both of those marriages.
Mm.
The first one I should have never got into in the first place, but can arguably say the second as well. But because there were things about me that and the thing you said, and the reason why the red pill phones have exist, honestly, is because once I got out of my second marriage, it did a self inventory of why do I pick these type of women to be with.
Mhm.
So, what is it about me that says that I need that type of woman? Because I end up marrying the same type of person. So, once I realized where my insecurity out and why I felt I needed a certain type of person in my life, that's where I had to start working on myself. And once I out, it took 5 years to kind of figure that out and be okay with it. You know, win, lose, draw. If it meant me uh, marrying someone else or being by myself for the rest of my life, I was willing to be okay with either way. It's just that I wasn't going to allow I wasn't going to allow myself to let life happen to me anymore. Um, and I was going to have a hand into what happened in my life moving forward. And when it came to relationships, being a lot being a lot responsible when it came to who you allow in your life and who life you allow yourself to be a part of, because you're responsible in any relationship you go into. You're responsible for everything that's inside that person's life, because you didn't agree to be in a relationship with that person alone. You be in a relationship with everything that goes on with that person.
Let me
And
ask
if
you something
that's their
really quickly.
parents, yeah.
Let me ask you something. So I want to go back to when you said marrying. Why did I feel I need to marry someone like that? Those particular personalities, whatever it is. What what was it about both of them that were pretty much the exact same thing? And when you realize what it was or is, what did it say about you?
Uh, I realized that, I picked aggressive women, women that will kind of hold my feet to the fire, if you will, as far as like doing things or playing things out. Though I had my ideas about him, I was still looking for a person to give me, because of my own relationship with my mom, right?
Mm,
Just
hmm.
I, as a kid, my dad was never around, whatever. So growing up with my mom, I kind of had two different childhoods. One, I was a badass kid, and I was making good grades, but I was bad. And
Hmm.
then put me out and put me in a boys' home because I decided to join a gang, had a gun in the house, and was like bucking up to her and like
So
daring her to do stuff to me,
rightfully
right?
so, you was a badass kid. So rightfully so, she put your badass away somewhere.
Yeah. So she
So you harbored a
made
lot of
me. She said,
resentment.
"Make a decision now." Well, growing up as a teenage boy and trying to figure out and mom really don't have a. Me and my mom didn't really have a relationship until I left for the Navy. Like we didn't really build one until I left for the Navy. I always felt like she loved my sister more and all that, whatever. But it was just after I got in trouble with her, and like she basically gave me an ultimatum, said either you get your act together or you'll never see me and your sister again, right? So basically, I did. I just she moved us out of the hood. That helped, and end up moving to A Leaf when A Leaf wasn't the hood, and it helped a lot as far as me being able to focus on other things except as far as like except trying to find not to fit in. And I did. I started figuring out, trying to figure out who I was as a man, and trying to be a better son to my mom, because I realized the things I was doing were wrong. It's just like I just why I was doing it. But
So would it
I
would it
always
be
trying to
safe
make
to
her happy.
right, right. So it's safe to say, like what a lot of us do, you end up marrying your mom twice.
Yeah, trying to make her happy
But let me ask
and
you
trying
this
to
though
be
too.
that I can make happy is what I was marrying a woman to try to make them happy.
But you also had a lot of resentment towards your mom. So you're trying to make someone happy, yet you also have resentment for your mom being, I guess she was maybe aggressive and she was forceful, and she's like, listen, this is what you're going to do. So she was the one who told you, here's your ultimatum. And you married people who were like holding your feet to the fire. Either you're going to do this or you're not going to do this. So did that contribute a lot to it failing? Because, I mean, you knew what you were getting. So were you trying to fight against that personality?
It ain't that deep. I think it was more on the surface level. My second marriage was an ultimatum, and she was like, either you're gonna marry me or we're not gonna be together anymore. And I was like, well, and at the time she brought it up, I was like, okay, well, I guess we're not gonna be together anymore. I mean, I think we barely knew each other for like a year, and I lived in Houston, so it was like I don't see it's working out anyway because we're driving back and forth, blah blah blah. So I was like, okay, whatever. And but then she kind of came back around, was like, apologized for it, and was like, well, I shouldn't have said that, blah blah blah. And instead of for the heels like I should have been after that, I still was like trying to change her mind about um, how she saw it. For whatever reason, I felt like I had to be with somebody that I could help, like they had some deficiencies, and I can help them. They will appreciate me more as a man, right? And that just never came to fruition. That never played out, and so it was more like the more I tried to please them, the worse it got as far as like our relationship, because it's just a mindset between men and women, how a woman doesn't really feel secure with a man that is a pushover, that she can do whatever she wants to do. So um me not knowing any of that at the time, is I was just making the relationship worse, thinking that if I had made my mom happy by doing what she said I should do, stop being bad, and make good grades, and please her in some way, that this is how I'm supposed to make all women happy. Just do what they say, do what they ask, and society, help push that narrative. We see TV shows and stuff like that. Is like, happy wife, happy life. Like that's the mantra. And if you just play that role, everything is gonna work on. It just never did. So um, me having to find peace by making somebody else happy, by ignoring my own happiness, is what I realized was the fault in my ways, as far as how I went about trying to be in a relationship with women. And so to find my own happiness and peace first, to figure out even what that was. So when I did try to attempt to go into another relationship, I at least know what makes happy, and then I could worry about, someone else's happiness. But me being happy had to happen first, and not happiness don't turn into happiness because they're happy, you know.
Right, right. Anything on your list that you want to ask me? I know you have a whole list of things there.
I hate you for that question though.
You love me. It's okay.
I ain't never shared that with nobody.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. I pull it out of people. But I do. I fully owned a long time ago my own mommy and daddy issues when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
And more recently, let's say, since my mom passed away, which will be 6 years pretty soon, I realized too my mom issues with relationships, like not issues with her, but that issue and how I navigate relationships as well. And trying to be, figuring out and battling who my authentic self is, and I've always been, I figured that out a long time ago in my early 20s, but I also figured out the hold that my mom's approval had on me and the fear of disappointing her. My thing was disappointment. I didn't want to disappoint. I didn't want to
Yeah.
bring disappointment. That's my thing. That's one of my disappointment. Forget about everything else. Disappointment. Because when someone tells you, I'm disappointed in you, that hurts. Not, beat me, but disappointed. That's like they had you at an expectation and wow, you're out of character, aren't you? Is this who you really are? And for me, I had the fear of not being alone raising a family, or alone but yet not alone, and then having the idea of trying to be with someone who you had to like figure out and fight for their emotions and fight the right, like, oh, I finally earned a place of importance in this person's life. And so how I manifested that in relationships would be either just not have them, or stick. I mean, yeah, or realize, had the battle with myself of, don't be attracted to certain traits that you've seen in your parents that you don't like, or you look at it as a positive, but the reality is you cannot really be with your mom and dad in a relationship. You know what I
No.
mean? It's bad enough you are the best and worst of them because you're their child. But so many of us are fearful of being with the wrong person and disappointing, and we end up with a clone of
And
one or the other, you know? So,
no, I list of questions for you. I really just wanted to kind of have a just an open dialogue about it, and we're doing that. I think a lot of times when and to finish your second part of the question you asked me earlier, I did have a fear of becoming not being there for my kid, and then being in divorces is now I'm not able to be, a dad in a marriage, for my kids. So those are heart wrenching and painstaking events that happen. Kind of wonders like, are curses real? Or, what I'm saying? Or is this going to be my son's life when he grows up? Right? Like, it's play out this way. So those things cross your mind, and I can't play preventative medicine with my life like I used to and think that I could prevent things from happening. I just think that the more information that you can get, and we're in the information age. So being able to get as much information as you can, as far, no matter what the age is. I think a lot of times we think we need to be certain ages before we can absorb information. I don't believe in that. I think we need to be exposed to all the information available to you, and you can choose how you want to use that information instead of letting somebody how much information they give you. Because that can change. It can change everything on how you see it if you give them only a portion of what's their options. So
mhm, mhm.
my son will get the unadulterated truth from me, all the facts, whatever he's old enough to be able to ask me, I'm gonna give him, because if you have enough mindset to be able to ask that question, you should have the capacity to be able to understand what the answer is. And if you can't fully, then I think you can be guided towards that way. So I'm learning, through the mistakes of others, how not to play out as far as, trying to keep to tradition about, oh, this is how so and so was raised, how I was raised, so that's how I'm raised. Well, was it all right? So would you have been different if it was done differently? Those are the things I kind of think about. It's like, look, if I lay out all the options that are available to me, I would be able to for me if that information is given to me correctly. I'll give you an example. My mom told me, if she said, I don't want you to ever do drugs, son, because I know what they do to the body. If you ever think you ever want to smoke weed or drink beer or liquor or anything like that, I'll let you do it. Just do it with me, so I'll know you're safe. I never end up doing drugs or drinking outside of, what I'm saying, until I was like ready to do it. And she gave me the option to do it with her, right? And I was like, okay, then it's nothing she said I could do it with her, but don't do it. She's trying to look out for me for whatever reason. For whatever reason, that helped me not want to do it. It didn't make me want to be rebellious and be like, because I was a rebellious kid. I think she probably knew that and think that anything told me not to do, I was gonna figure out how to do it. So
I think rebellion
I just
comes, and we're all rebellious. I think that comes from I think it comes from, and I think this carries through all relationships. We're fearful of losing things, and we're fearful of kids turning out the way we did, or like as we're older, we are now. We see the world. We've been there. We've done it. I don't care what year it is. We've been there. There's sex. There's bullying. Whatever it is, we've seen it, and we try so hard
yeah.
to prevent. And sometimes our fear and prevention turns into a cage jail. But when you say
Yep.
to them, and when you don't tell them anything, when you don't share things and you're holding like a secret, what do you want to do? Find out what the secret is. Like, what's the secret? But when you make it where
Exactly.
like you're open and you talk about it, it's like, hey, is this, is that? If you want to, we can talk about it. When you keep the door open for people, kids, all of that, and they know they're safe to communicate, they're not wondering what's out there, because they know if I have any questions, I can go to the source, and so many of us didn't have that. I had that. It was always I knew about sex early, I knew about relationships, I knew about certain things really early, so I was never out there seeking the validation or the answers in other areas. And I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing is, what we have to do is not plant our own personal fears in the next generation. Is not benefiting anyone, and that's a hard thing to do.
Do you think and I believe this is true, like certain fears are in your DNA, and you could be on repeat with previous lifestyles from your parents if they never, if they, like, when you have like family secrets, stuff like that,
I don't think
and
it's in
you
our
start to have.
DNA. I don't think it's a DNA thing. I think you have to plant them there. When we're born, we're a blank slate. We're not even looking like who we should look like yet. But when you hold your child and you smile, now they smile like you because they're mimicking what you give them. So we're mimicking. We have to put upon our children those fears and those understandings. Don't be like your daddy. Don't be like your mom. We don't talk about that. What do we don't talk about? Or we put our own fears of life on them, thinking we're protecting them, and now we're just planting in them nonsense. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have to be mindful of the world, but sometimes the world, you have to change the adjustment of what you plant in your kids.
You
It's
don't you
because
don't
daddy
think
cheated
that
don't mean you gonna
a
cheat.
guy, huh?
Just because daddy cheated doesn't mean you gonna cheat. But if someone always
No,
tells you
no.
in a
I'm
secret kind of
saying,
way, "Oh, I know how your dad was," and la la la, what do you think gonna happen?
yeah, yeah. I remember my mom telling me certain things about, don't be like this or so and so, right? And
Right?
I didn't even know what that meant. I don't even know what that meant.
Exactly.
So,
But you carried the
um,
fear of it because you didn't know what it was. I don't want to be Tom. All I know is I can't be Tom. You know what I mean? You don't know who Tom is,
I had a
but I can't be Tom.
Yeah, I had a fear of being a mother's boy. My mom would tell you that. Like I had a fear of being a mother's boy. And I would tell her I'm not a mother's boy. I'm not a mother's boy. She was like, "Who put that in your head? Like I don't why are you afraid to be a mother's boy? You're not a mother's boy. Trust me, you're not." And so I don't know where that from, but those were the things I always tried to be, this loner or go be on my own road. You know what I'm saying? Don't tell me how to live my life. But in reality, when I failed in certain areas in my life, maybe I should have listened to what they said because my mom had this magical way of putting guilt on me until I was like I outgrow it. And when I finally outgrew it, it was one of those big things off my chest and off my shoulders where I don't have this big weight on me of disappointing my mom again like I did when I was a kid, right? Of ever having to be burdened on her, right? So it takes man, and I'm gonna tell you, I had to do my own your own therapy. And it takes a longer
Self-evaluation.
time. Well, yes, because I've done some therapy, and I didn't really take it serious because I'm trying to answer, right. And when I finally said, you know what, I want to work on myself, so I'm gonna go open minded and see if it helps me. And I think what it is that therapy allows you to be able to be honest with yourself as far as fears are concerned and your weaknesses are concerned. It's about being okay with the reality you live in and not actually fooling yourself to believe that the things that are bad is somebody else's fault, right? Like you
Mhm.
push it off to some other reason, like you're more in control of how your life plays out than you actually think it is. So I took that from my therapy. Uh but it also allowed me to see, I'm willing to be introspective. I'm willing to be okay looking at the ugly side of myself, my yin and yang, right? And not be afraid of the dark side of me, if you will, and thinking that that's an ugly side, but it helps balance out the other things, because just as much as I'll give you my shirt off my back, the same way I'll cut you off real fast. Like there's a balance that I can have, and it's okay to be both. It's all about my comfort and where protecting what I call my peace. Right.
hmm Let me ask you this. So, let's go ahead and close this out. I think we could go so much deeper with this. And, fear touches on all aspects of life, as we all know. But I will say that I think if we continue to try to fight those past demons, we're never going to be able to move forward. And I think with you being a rebellious kid and wanting to do your own thing, you still carry that with not wanting to listen to the therapist. Let me try to analyze the therapist. Let's sit down and take the lesson. But I think that's
Yeah.
another demon that's another battle, you may have to battle with because you don't want to lose who you are, but you can still be who you are and listen and take. I mean, you have to do it, but you can listen to other people and let people figure you out. I mean, you're not that hard to figure out. I know we want to be mysterious and we want to be all these things and not be our parents. And I think we fight so hard not to be that we end up being those people. So Anthony, I want to ask you, as we close out, I want to say thank you for coming on. Give me 3 great takeaways about fear that you think is important.
You kind of got chopped up on that. You said, "Give me 3 takeaways that what?"
Give me 3 great takeaways about fear that you think is important.
Okay. Being able to embrace what it is and not be a victim of it, and just be able to use it as a tool to help you make the best choice in moving and not allowing it to be a paralyzing motion, if you will. And
Okay.
was that 2 or 1?
I don't know, but I'm
and
listening to you.
And I also think that if you put fear, like one of the things that I learned in sales, that you fear as far as that you have a hard time doing, you do that first instead of trying to hold it off to last.
Okay.
So the things that most should be the things you should try to push forward to get it over with, because everything else you're good at. You just need to
Okay.
knock out what you're afraid of first.
And the last one?
And that way you're I thought I said three. I thought I was
That was 3? You
done.
can
But
stop.
okay. I think I'm done because then I'll be just pulling shit out my ass.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that. For me, I think that my 3
I'll say this.
takeaways
I'll
from
say this.
fe
I'll say
Uh-huh.
this. Success is definitely something that has fear elements involved in it. So when you're succeeding as far as taking steps towards success, the unknown steps are fears. And for whatever reason been successful, you was able to overcome those. So just remember that. Like you've done it before. So don't be afraid to do it again. I'll say that.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
Is that
I think
okay
for
for number
me
three?
that's fine. I think for me, 3 takeaways of fear is not weakness. It's just that uncomfortable part of life that you have to make a decision that you know has always been there. Number 2, do not inherit or carry on the fears of those you are raised around. That's not yours to carry. And 3, just go ahead and face it. Fear can be joyous and fun and exhilarating and open you up to so many other things in life. That's my thing when it comes to fear. I want to say thank you, Anthony, for coming on. Please tell everyone again where they can find you and the name of your shows.
You can find me on Instagram at Dat Text Boy, DATTEXBOY. You can find me on Spotify, iPhone, was it iPhone podcast, or Google Pod, as far as the Quiet Part Out Loud. The same platform you can find Red Pill Phone Tap, even on iHeartRadio. You can email the show, redpill@gmail.com. Leave comments on YouTube. I'm on YouTube as well with that show. So that show, yeah, I'm on Anchor. I don't know if you have the Anchor app as far as that podcast, but you can find me on that as well.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for coming on and giving me the topic of fear. I really enjoyed talking to you. Everyone, please enjoy the show. Follow me on all platforms. We'll talk to you later.